In 1943, Harry Williams founded Williams Manufacturing Company in Chicago, Illinois. The first products were fortune-telling machines and other EM games, along with 2 pinball conversions. Those conversions were 2 different games, one called Flat Top and the other called Laura, were built by purchasing older pinball machines made by other companies and changing the artwork and other elements on the playfield. The lack of raw materials during World War II, brought to you by Call of Duty, made the manufacture of new machines difficult and expensive. A Stanford engineering graduate, Williams devised the tilt mechanism for pinball machines, along with a whole bunch of other innovations. The company continued producing EM pinball games and other games throughout the decades, finding much success. The first all-original amusement device made by Williams was a flipperless pinball machine called Suspense in 1946, and in 1977 stopped producing EM pinball machines altogether and began exclusively making solid-state games, starting with Hot Tip. The late 70s also saw the company grow in new directions, perhaps seeing the writing on the wall for the pinball industry as a whole. Taking note of Atari's success with Pong in 1972, Williams decided to enter the fledgling coin-operated arcade video game industry. After preliminary negotiations with Magnavox, it subcontracted the Magnetic Corporation of America to create its first arcade video game, Paddleball. Williams would eventually develop its own breakthrough hit with the release of 1980's Defender, whose gameplay, horizontal scrolling, and dynamic color influenced many subsequent games. Defender Pinball was designed by Barry Ausler and Joe Kamenkow and illustrated by Constantino and Janine Mitchell. It was released in 1982 by Williams Electronics as a pinball spin-off to their popular Defender arcade game. While other licensed pinball tables of the time simply themed a generic table with the licensee's images and ideas, Defender attempted to replicate the video game's rules and structures into a pinball paradigm. In each wave, the player must protect 10 humanoids from being abducted by landers and turned into mutants. Take too long to destroy the landers, and baiters will pop up from the playfield to thwart your shots. Hit the pods to access the warp target, then shoot down the swarmers to open the Stargate. Skillful players will judiciously use smart bombs to destroy all enemies, while a well-timed press of the reverse button will save wayward balls from draining down the left out lane. Defender was released at a time when pinball was on its way out, and Williams only managed to sell an anemic 369 tables. But players who have taken the time to learn its unorthodox gameplay praise it for its fast speed and unconventional challenges, making this a game that fetches high prices in a niche collector's market. Cut to Brazil and Taito of Japan of Brazil by way of Russia. Starting out as Clover Electronic Amusement in 1968, Taito of Brazil took over in 1972 when Abraham Abba Kogan, the son of the founder of parent company Taito, located in Japan, bought the company. This subsidiary was originally an importer of existing US and Japanese machine components to be assembled within the country. However, the taxation on imports had been growing steadily, and the government's belief that pinball is a game of chance and was considered a gambling machine led to strict import rules, and by 1976, due to rules created by the Electronic Processing Activities Coordinating Committee, it became illegal to import pinball machines. This created a problem, since the popularity of arcade games in Brazil had been growing exponentially for many years. In 1978, with an influx of cash from the parent company, Taito of Brazil was able to build new facilities to accommodate the new standard of solid-state games being produced by other manufacturers. Because of the import changes, companies in Brazil needed to innovate, some would say copy, and began creating imitations or close representations of already existing products that no longer could be acquired. This included pinball and arcade games. Taito of Brazil began creating games by copying existing designs of successful pinball machines made elsewhere. Where some games were nearly identical in a physical sense, others had greatly altered artwork. In most cases of games created to look like their counterparts made by other manufacturers, the machine name was changed, sound effects altered, and often went through a modification of game rules. Such was the case with a Taito game called Oba Oba. The playfield layout was a copy of Bally Playboy, but with altered artwork, and now based on a playhouse located in Rio de Janeiro. Where others were much closer to the original game, such as the case with Dracor, which is nearly identical to Gorgar. Additionally, they made countless bootleg games based off of Moon Cresta and other games that they were able to get their hands on. Taito of Brazil closed its doors in 1985 after a series of unfortunate events. Michael Kogan, the founder of the parent company Taito Corporation, had died on a business trip to the US in early 1984. This left much of the control of the Japanese Taito Corporation to the company employees, who were less enthusiastic about its subsidiaries. This added to a sharp decrease in the popularity of pinball worldwide, as the result of the popularity of arcade video games prompted the decision to close down Taito of Brazil in 1985. The company was liquidated and all its debts honored without the need for bankruptcy. Kyocera of Japan purchased what remained of Taito Corporation in 1986. But the reason we're here today is to talk about Mr. Black. Mr. Black is Taito of Brazil's version of Defender. One of the creepiest looking artwork you'll ever see. A giant skull in the middle of the playfield, a damsel in distress below him, maybe being sacrificed? I'm not sure what's going on. On the back glass, there's this crazy looking preacher guy in a robe with big red eyes, and he's very frightening, and there's an altar and all kind of weird stuff going on. Smoke and doom. It is hyper creepy. I've never played the real game. I've never played a Defender, but I came across this Mr. Black, and I kind of want to play him, Mr. Black. He looks awesome. I don't know what the rule set is. I don't know very much about this machine. And not only is the gameplay a ripoff of Defender, but the music is a ripoff of Johann Sebastian Bach's Toccata and Fugue in D minor. It's almost like Johann Sebastian Bach's slow brother, Bill. It's so slow and weird sounding. Go back and listen to that again. It's very strange. Anyway, this is the only footage I could find of the machine online. There's a couple pictures online. There's very little written up about it. There's a whole history of Taito of Brazil, and that's where most of this article came from. I'm sure I'd love to play it. I'm sure you'd love to play it. It looks really awesome. Look at his eyes glowing there. That's awesome. I wish these kind of things were more accessible in real life. There were only 369 Defender machines made. Hopefully there's more of these around, but I doubt it. Import pinball, something I want to get into. It'd be really cool to get my hands on one of these machines. You guys, if you've played one out there, let me know how it plays in the comments. If you're from Brazil and you're watching this, that'd be totally cool to know someone that has one. Like, subscribe, comment, all that jazz. Thank you guys for watching number 4 on Kevin's top 7 horror-themed pinballs of all time countdown, Mr. Black. You guys have a rad day. Captain!